Friday, September 22nd, and we're going to be mentioning trading. Trading involves risk. Make sure you know what you're doing. So, we talk about trading and obviously doing some trading. I had an interesting day today. I had a poorly executed entry. Well, not poorly executed. The execution was actually fine, but it didn't execute properly because I'm using the trade copier. So while the primary account executed on one end, it did not execute on all of the accounts, which I have to. Well, no, I guess it could have. I can't. Whatever. I can't remember if it executed the entry and not the exit, or vice versa. It ended up being a good trade for me. I picked up a little over $200 on the trade, which is what 10 points, 40 ticks, more or less. But but it took a little bit of patience getting through it because it was fighting around some consolidation and it was dropping much further than it was coming up. And if I'd stayed in it a little bit longer, I would have made a little bit more. But the whole thing was that this was a faulty execution. I probably should have gotten out of it sooner than I did, if we're being real honest. But based on what I was seeing on the charts, I really was expecting it to come back up. In fact, I was expecting it to kind of go way up, which it did. But I didn't wait for all of that to happen. I kind of just got to a level that was reasonable for me, made a nice solid play, and I was able to move on. So why does trading involve so much psychology? And you have the factors of a game, which if we will all kind of go back to the early days of, as we were, growing up and playing video games and shit like that, there really was this psychological, what's the word? There was this psychological reaction to not getting what we wanted. But we also had the idea, look, if you're my age, we had to feed quarters into these fucking machines, right? But the younger generation, while they had that, they didn't necessarily experience it at the same level that we did. You guys didn't really hang out at arcades like we did. Why? Because you had big-ass TVs and game systems that had such dynamic like graphics and storylines and all the shit that video games have now, that there was really no reason to go feed quarters into this thing. Mom and Dad would pony up a couple $100, get you a game console, and then you would be, punching out hookers and gaining health over it or whatever video games you were playing, right? So there was this kind of development of this mindset of almost this unlimited life type of mindset. You just hit reset and you go again, you hit reset and you go again. And I think this is where a lot of traders struggle, especially this, in this day and age where, and look, I experienced all of those video games as well. I played video games much longer than my youth and my childhood. So I had the consoles. I played the shit. I played the shit on my iPad, all that kind of good stuff, right? So when you have this almost unlimited life mentality, when you start thinking about trading, you're on a computer screen. There's just so much similarity between the two that it's just not uncommon for that mindset to start to come into play. All right. Now the other thing is that you have a little bit of that mindset of gambling. Now, I think that every successful trader does sort of get away from that concept of gambling, but there's that I'm putting up money to make money. So there's that correlation there, right? And then you just have this overarching concept of money. Well, what do we trade for? We don't trade for world peace. We trade for money, and people get very funny about the concept of money, especially when we start talking about areas of money that are outside of our comfort zone. So if you make 50 grand a year, right, and you start to see potential gains in the world of trading that are 3 times that, that can mess with your head. It's exciting, And when you start to see the smaller amounts that fall within that normal comfort zone, it doesn't necessarily have as much of an effect. But when those gains or those losses, it can go both ways, start to exceed a certain level, there is a certain psychology that takes place that the brain can't really fathom that number. It doesn't seem reasonable. It doesn't seem realistic. Like if you went to the casino, you wouldn't take 10 grand, yet you'll feed 10 grand into a trading account, right? The argument being kind of like poker. Poker is the one game that can be considered not gambling because you can't have an edge if you have enough skill, right? Well, trading is the same way. You can develop the skill to have the edge, to have that consistent winning streak, as long as you can manage all of the emotions. But just like poker, we get excited, we get nervous, we get fearful. All of these emotions start to take effect within our body. And nothing else really has that effect. Money is important. Okay, let's get past this whole concept of money is evil. Money is not the root of all evil. The love of money is the root of all evil, if you want to take this back to a biblical sense. And if you really want to take that, and make that biblical argument, God wants us to prosper. Okay? So money is not evil. Money is not inherently evil, but if money becomes the idol, it is evil. And I'm not here to argue good, bad, and evil or any of that shit, right? But my point here is we trade for one reason and one reason only. We trade for money. Why do we trade for money? Because money buys us time. Money buys us freedom. Money buys us experience. Money buys us comfort. Money buys us the things that we like, that we enjoy. And ultimately, if we are successful in the world of trading, we get to a point where money ceases to be a quote-unquote problem. And we're no longer struggling with debt. We're no longer struggling to get those bills paid. We have enough to buy all of the creature comforts that we want, the nice house, the nice cars, the travel, whatever the case may be. The problem is, if that's all we're after, then what'll happen is there will come a point where that will become boring. And when it becomes boring, the human creature has a tendency to blow it all up and force this start over. I've seen people do this in trading. I've seen people do this in business. I've seen people do this with their marriages. I've seen people do this in pretty much every facet of life. So, what's the cure? It's okay to go after the money. Go after the money. But there comes a point where there has to be more of a purpose behind what it is that you do. Now, whether it's involved with the money or not doesn't really matter. As long as you have a purpose in life, something that you're working towards, something that you're growing towards, something that you're developing, that will stave off the boredom that we get by having too much money and too much time. You don't believe me? Look at these second, third, and God help me, fourth generation rich kids. I went to high school with a kid. I don't even remember who it was. I just remember that this kid, his parents gave him a brand new Mercedes on his 16th birthday. And within a short period of time, he wrecked it. Now, when I bought my first car, I bought it for $1,500. I had to borrow $1,000 of that from my dad, and my payback was $100 a month for a year. So it cost me $1,200 to borrow $1,000. It's a good life lesson, right? And it was an old car. It was a '66 Mustang. It was cool, but it was not really worth anything. So the insurance that we had was that minimum legal liability. So what happened if I wrapped my car around a tree? I don't have a car anymore. So guess what I didn't do? Yet this kid wraps this brand new Mercedes around a tree. Fortunately, he was okay. I don't think anybody got significantly hurt in the ordeal. Following week, he had a brand new, I don't think it was a Mercedes. It was something insane. It was like a Ferrari level type car. I don't think it was a Ferrari. Anyway, but like just huge step up. And I'm sitting here going, what the fuck kind of lesson is that? Right? When you have too much time and too much money and no sense of purpose, you blow it all up. So why wait until it's time to blow it up? What is your sense of purpose? As you're developing, as you're growing, as you're improving as a trader, start understanding what that sense of purpose might be for you. Because there will come a day when you're going to want to quit that job, close the business, or basically eliminate a lot of the other things in your life that take more time and provide less back to you, and that do not contribute to that sense of purpose. So don't wait until it's all about to fall apart. Start now. And that way, when the time comes, you will have a much, much better chance of succeeding through any sort of a transition into having too much time and too much money, because then you have too much purpose. And when you have too much purpose, all of these other things become secondary, and you don't feel compelled to get bored. Anyway, that's my my wonderful wisdom for the day. If you are a successful trader and you're looking to make some sort of a transition in your world, remember there's a lot of mindset, there's a lot of factors that come into play that will help you either succeed or cause you to fail through that transition. If you want to have a conversation about what some of those might look like and how to avoid those pitfalls, shoot me a DM. I'd love to have a conversation with you about what that might look like. If that sounds like a good fit, then we can talk about some opportunities moving forward where I might be able to work with you through some of that mindset, through some of that habit and lifestyle that makes sure that you're in the right place to make that transition so that you don't blow it up and burn it down. Anyway, as always, I appreciate you guys. I love you all. God bless. Have a wonderful rest of your Friday. I'll see you guys soon.